wanted to update everybody on the UDC and where we are right now. We're in the midst of doing sign ordinances. We're also working with the sign committee. She's going to go over some of the zoning aspects and subdivision regulations. So I think we'll touch on a little bit of everything tonight, but we're going to leave a lot of time for questions and answers because I think there are a lot of questions out there that you'd probably like to get a little more detail. So we'll make sure that everybody's got plenty of time for that. I've also got Rebecca Tassini in the audience. She's my new planner. She's our planner in the office, and she handles the subdivision ordinances right now, subdivision regulations and planning. So she's in attendance as well. I'm going to hand it over to Carissa. We'll go through the PowerPoint very quickly, and then we'll leave plenty of time for questions and comments. And we'll save them to the end because we're going to talk at a very high level now, and then it'll just leave open discussion for the rest of the meeting.
Okay, I'm going to stand over here by this laptop so I can flash some slides for you really quick. Is everyone staying cool? I'm ready for the rain. So as Laura mentioned, we're going to stay pretty high level. This is a very big, very large, comprehensive project. We're covering a lot of different aspects of development regulations. So we're not going to get down into any of the particulars and specifics tonight. We're going to focus on project progress, general description of some of the content, and some of the next steps and things that are coming up. So we do have a steering committee involved in the project, which I'm going to get into in a minute, and they are hands-on on the development and the review of each of these chapters. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what a Unified Development Code is. Each state in our country has enabled or authorized cities to oversee land subdivision through the planning process, and also to oversee buildings and how things get built as far as density goes and the types of uses that can go in our cities and how sites are supposed to be designed. So what a Unified Development Code does is it takes all of those different types of regulations and kind of, through synthesis, kind of integrates them all together. So when you go to the code, you're not looking around in different places to find things that naturally should probably go together. It also ensures that things like roadways and sites get considered at the same time whenever we develop our standards and regulations. So it's a single unified document that contains the city's regulations and requirements related to development. So when we talk about the Unified Development Code or the UDC, that's what we're talking about. It addresses zoning, it addresses platting and subdivision, it also addresses signage, and to some extent building regulations. And so there's a lot of different chapters that will be included in the Unified Development Code, but these are the topics that will be covered. So when we talk about design standards, that will be in there. Development procedures, when you have to submit an application and it needs to get approval before you can do something on your property, that's going to be in there. The different zoning for properties around the town, and how they get subdivided. So all of that we've broken out, and each city regulates these things. They all regulate them, but in kind of a different way. So no two cities are going to have the exact same regulations, and no two Unified Development Codes are the exact same either. So there's always a little bit of variation based on the priorities of a particular community. So, like for example, in Bernie, design is really important, and so is stewardship of environmental resources. And so you put those two things together, and you have some customized chapters that fall out in this UDC that some other cities may not really care that much about, or that might not be their priority, so they don't address them as specifically as we do here. So for the city of Bernie, through our meetings and our process of digging around and what you have in regulations right now, these are the 10 chapters that we've kind of hashed out today. So you always need your legalese at the beginning that's going to talk about things that, on how you're supposed to interpret the rules, what are the measurements, how the vocabulary is supposed to read like, different clauses and provisions in there that are kind of applied to all of the content. And that would be chapter 1. And it also establishes like the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustment. So all of the different groups that are established are also identified in that first chapter. The second chapter will deal with procedures. So like I said, if you have an application that you're turning in to the city for, say, you want to rezone your property, then there's going to be rules you have to follow in order to get that property rezoned. And that will be a procedure that will be addressed in that second chapter. And then the third chapter deals with property zoning. So that would be dimension dimensional requirements that have, so if I'm going to put a building on the site, how far back does that building have to be from the public street? How tall can my building be, and what type of uses can I do on my site? So I can't necessarily do like auto manufacturing in my garage because I'm in a residential area and that's not appropriate. So the zoning chapter is going to govern what uses are appropriate for the properties in town and some of the standards dimensionally for those properties as well. And then we've got a lot of design chapters, and that's one thing I realized early on is that design is a high value item for the Alberta community, and so we spelled all of those out into different aspects that can be discrete and important and individually addressed. So we'll address residential site design, residential sites, and non-residential site design. That includes like office spaces, hospitals, restaurants, retail places, and industrial properties as well. So anything that's not a place where people live would be non-residential. And then subdivision design, when you build new neighborhoods, or when you divide a piece of property up for like a big, large commercial area with pad sites and anchor and things like that. That would be addressed in subdivision design. In infrastructure design, that's how you got to build your streets and where your power lines can go and things like that. Environmental design will deal with floodplain and stormwater management, steep slopes, tree preservation. Laura's going to talk, I'm sure, later in a little bit if you have questions. Some sections of these chapters are having special attention paid to them to be developed in greater detail and updated right now. And so like, for example, the stormwater management and low impact development standards that are being drafted right now would fall inside of this Chapter 8 environmental design. So we're not going to go into that. I'm not going into that in great detail tonight, but later on towards the end of the presentation, we'll be happy to answer questions. Chapter 9 is on signage. So Supreme Court heard a case, a murder decision several years ago on how cities are allowed to regulate signage in their communities. And the point behind it is the preservation of free speech, but the maintenance of order in our communities as well. And so Bernie has to go back and redo their sign regulations because we can't regulate signs based on content anymore. And so there's a new sign chapter that has to be developed, and we're working on that. And then finally, the building codes of the city. And we're not making any changes through this process to the building codes of the city, but we're bringing them into this document because they really do overlap a lot with these other topics. And then there'll be a master glossary and some tables and illustrations, and those will all be included in it. So that's the overall structure. So you can tell there's a lot of information that's covered here, hundreds and hundreds of pages of ordinances. So it's very comprehensive in nature. So that's kind of why we're not getting down into the weeds too much tonight. As a progress report, we've been really, really busy. We started in February, I think, of all of this stuff. So what is that? In about 8 months, 6 months, in about 6 months, we've developed a good portion of the content. All of the chapters with check boxes have already been drafted, and it shows you how they're moving through the review process. And because the ordinances of a city and the laws really do have to reflect community vision, they have to be consistent with the master plan of the city, and they also can't just turn everything up on the ear that you've done for years and years in the past. And so we're not trying to create whole new ways of doing things. We're just trying to organize and improve on what's already there. So the review process is very important. So I have a consulting firm, and we know how to do all this stuff, and we love the work we do, but we always need community members and representatives to review that work to make sure that it rings true here, that it's customized and that it's special and it meets the needs of learning. So staff obviously works with us to create content and modify it. And then after staff is relatively happy with it, we pass it on to the steering committee. And Mayor Handren and Dr. Fowler and Ross, I saw here, and Jeff and Chesney and Ben. So there's a bunch of people. Can y'all let everybody know who's here on the steering committee? So there's 9 members of steering committee. We meet monthly. And whenever there's content, like once we get a chapter done and clean, we give it to them to review. They can work in subcommittees or not, depending on how much there is. Sometimes there's a lot to get through. So they're reading every page and looking at every bit that's coming out to make sure that we're staying on track. We go to legal review, so the city attorney is involved in that, and we make sure that what we are drafting is defensible and is protecting the city from exposure in that way. And then finally, it goes to council and to planning and zoning commission at a public hearing. And so because it's so much content, like I said, there'll probably be 500 pages at the end of it, and that's a lot for council and commission to get through, so we're taking it to them in pieces so that we have time to talk about content, and they can ask questions, and we can provide comment, things like that. And public in here as well, so those documents are publicly available as soon as they go to council and PZ, so that when the whole thing gets finished, you're not just dealt with this giant book that you can't wade through. So we're trying to produce it in pieces. We got a lot of pieces going. So right now, the stuff that we're working on internally is the sign chapter. The glossary is rolling, and the illustrations will be provided as well. And staff is really concentrating on procedures right now. We have to look at things like submittal requirements, criteria for approval of an application, and where you go for appeals and things like time limits, when the clock starts on certain things, and when you have to see turnaround, what departments and officials are involved. That's where they're concentrating their efforts right now. This kind of gives you an idea of where we're at. So we've had 5 steering committee meetings to date, and the steering committee meets the 4th Monday of every month. We had one developers forum way at the beginning of the project, I think in February that was, or March, sometime around there. And we've already had one town hall meeting around that same time, and this will be our second citywide open meeting for an update. So that's kind of what we've been up to on the outreach front. We're planning to continue our meetings with steering committee, obviously, and to continue our presentations to planning and zoning commission and to council as well. We coordinate staff, and my firm Mosaic coordinates the staff weekly also on where are we, what do we need to be working on, what is everybody liking, what are they not, that kind of stuff. And then we're just deep in the throes of production right now. So we don't have a draft to bring to you yet. In the next few months, there will be that. And like I said, as soon as we get a chapter ready to go to Planning and Zoning Commission or Council, it's also posted for public consumption at that time as well. So you can always tell when something's made available to you, that means that's around the time the Council of PZ is seeing it. Because we don't want to put it out there until it's gone through staff and legal review, and also through the review of the steering committee. Okay. Are we good? That's a lot. I know it's a lot, it's pretty dry. So this next part gets into some of the details. We're going to look at zoning in particular. So zoning, like I said, was introduced about 100 years ago in the United States so that uses, like my right to use and enjoy my property is not unnecessarily burdened or limited by my neighbor's use and enjoyment of their property. So we can all play nice together and figure out a way to use our properties in our city in a way that's more organized and easier to service, and it also protects the safety and overall health of our community. So that's why zoning is really important. That's the reasoning behind a lot of this. So the zoning chapter is going to contain all the zoning categories. That means, like, if I have a property that's zoned like R2 or commercial or office, that tells me, my zoning tells me what I'm allowed to do on my property from a use standpoint, and what are the setbacks and heights and the other dimensional requirements for the way that property is developed. And so there's a big master use table that goes with the zoning chapter that you can see. My property is on this, these are all the uses, and these are all the dimensional requirements for that. And then there's obviously a zoning map that the city maintains. So every parcel ideally in the city is going to be zoned according to those zoning categories. So as we're going through and working on the zoning chapter, there are some major changes. Once this UDC gets adopted, there will be some things that change with the new zoning chapter as compared to the current zoning ordinance. We've done some refinement of the zoning categories themselves. And the biggest way I'm skipping down to the third bullet is the difference between our base zoning categories and our overlay districts. So the way that the current zoning chapter, the zoning ordinance is structured, there's a little bit of overlap and confusion between what is a zoning category and what is an overlay district. So we refine that so that zoning is based on uses and dimensions only. And so I could have a residential property like on this side of town, but I could also have it way up in another side of town as well. It doesn't matter where the property is located. Overlay districts are geographic areas of the city in which certain economic goals or cultural goals or historic goals are going to be protected, and design standards special to that area are going to be enforced. Like Main Street, the historic area of town, is a special distinct area, so there's certain regulations for that area that are different than another part of town. And so that's what overlay districts do. So in the zoning chapter, there are going to be base zoning categories that will just define the uses and setbacks and heights and things like that. And then there's going to be overlay districts for certain parts of town where there's going to be enhanced or more specific requirements developed. We also did a cleanup of the text and the tables in there. We're trying to make everything more legible, more approachable, give the language a little more current so that it's not as vague and confusing when you read things. And also to align the terminology with industry conventions. So there's some terms that every other city uses, and it's just a matter of lingo and terminology, then why wouldn't we use it here too, to make it to where we're all kind of using common terms for common items. Finally, the zoning map's going to have to be revised when zoning categories change. So let's say there's a few properties that are, I'm just making things up, that are zone P3, whatever that is, and that category goes away. Well, then there's going to have to be a map change to show the new category that's going to be applied to that property. So there'll be some tweaks with the zoning map of the city as well, based on the new categories. But the city is not, like I said, going through and just completely turning over the way things are done right now. That's not the intent at all. It's just a cleanup and make sure that we're internally consistent and also consistent with state law and best practices. Another thing before I move on that's also driving a lot of this is the master plan that was adopted about a year ago. So state law does say that your zoning regulations have to align with your master plan. And so the land use plan component of the master plan dictates, governs, and drives a lot of what we're doing with the zoning cleanup. And that way those two documents can be aligned. So these, I'm not going to read through, there's a lot, but these are the new proposed base zoning categories for residential uses for the city. So it covers a lot of different density ranges from like estate size residential of multiple acres down to like smaller, older lots in town that might be like 10,000 square feet even, you know. So just if I live in a house, my lot can be a lot of different sizes, but the size of my lot really does influence how tall the buildings can be, how far they need to be set back from the street, from the neighbors, and things like that. Where my garage can go. These are all things that people get frustrated with the neighbors about. Whether my mom always said good fences make good neighbors, so we're trying to keep a little bit of order, but still allow use on properties that align with everybody's vision. So, multifamily residential is another thing we'll hit on, and where duplexes need to go, and manufactured home communities. Another new addition, we're creating a holding category. So when properties are brought into town and annexed through annexation, they don't automatically become residential. Because sometimes that's not the highest and best use, and sometimes that isn't what the master plan calls for. Non-residential zoning categories, that's your commercial and your office and your industrial. We created a few new office and industrial categories to allow for things like craft industries, like if there's a microbrewery that's going to go into town, or if somebody wants to do like a botanical garden, or like a landscape nursery, something like that in certain areas. So there's, or even industrial arts, like if I want to do like a sculpture studio with an apartment above it, where does that go? So we're trying to create zoning categories that will accommodate some of these different uses that, for people that really want to come live in Bernie, and they're bringing good businesses here that kind of fit with the feel and character of the town, that there might not be a zoning category out there that would work for them. So we're trying to create some of those. And then finally, there's special districts and overlays, as I said. So I I already told you what we're doing with overlays. There's some flexible zoning tools we're also using. You guys already use planned development districts or PDDs around the downtown area. We're tweaking and revising that a little bit. But in other areas, the use for PD is more common on a large-scale master plan community. And that's where you commonly see the use of planned development tools. So what we're doing is instead of doing away with your PDD, we're just creating additional flexible zoning tool called the planned development district. So you have a planned unit developments and planned development districts. And that's just for properties where multiple different zoning categories might apply to a single development. Like if I'm doing a master plan community, and I'm doing a retail area, maybe school, maybe some daycare, but I also have single family homes and maybe some garden homes, all in the same development, then that person can come in and get a PDD, for that project. Cluster developments are a way to incentivize shared yard space and more open space while having more compact lots. So that's kind of a summary of the zoning. I want to briefly talk through the design chapters. All I'm doing for this is kind of telling you what's going to go in each one of these, because they're kind of intuitive, but this is really different. Not a lot of communities have as much design specificity as Bernie has. So I love that we were able to preserve that and build upon it and add to, even now, we're augmenting what we were originally setting out to do through the introduction of some additional design regulations. So when we talk about residential site design, there's been some new state law that kind of ties the city's hands as to what they can regulate when it comes to buildings and building materials. So the site design regulations that we use, they have to be consistent with state law and with federal law, obviously. So we're allowed to regulate for these things up on the screen here. So that would include driveways and garages and parking areas, screening, landscaping, lighting, and fences and walls. And there's overlap in some of this with your building codes, which is another reason why it's nice to pull the building codes into your UDC, so it's kind of at least all in the same place. Non-residential site design will deal with, again, commercial, office, industrial properties. Outdoor storage and display areas would be addressed here, lighting, landscaping, buildings, access and on-site circulation, so like how many curb cuts, how many driveways, how many points of entry, how tall could the commercial areas be, can they do, like you see here, like how much of it needs to be windows on the first floor, do they need a lighting plan and things like that. And subdivision design is going to deal with how, if I'm doing a neighborhood, how do all those separate smaller lots need to work together? And what are the different patterns I want to see? How long can the blocks be? And then if there's a wall around the neighborhood, are there rules for what that wall has to look like and what it can be made out of? If there's public and community service facilities inside, what rules need to be followed for that? And then finally, there's a section on conservation subdivisions, again, pushing for the idea of more compact development forms for the preservation of open space. Those typically target for 50% open space dedication, but we're setting a minimum at 40% for those. The infrastructure design chapter covers everything from streets to parks. We've spent a lot of time working on the parkland dedication requirement for Bernie. That's a new addition. The transportation network. The city will be doing a transportation master plan soon. So we didn't mess with like street types or anything like that in this process because we didn't want to do it and go back in 6 months and change it again. So we're keeping the street network the way it is now, but giving some guidance to how that needs to play out in neighborhoods. Water, sewer, drainage, reclaimed water. There were no major changes to infrastructure regulations other than the parkland dedication section and the introduction of low impact development section in enhanced stormwater management. That's basically it for that, right? It's a lot. Environmental design overlaps with that a little bit, but it is focused on stewardship of environmental resources. So it's going to specifically hit on environmental stewardship. So you'll see tree preservation, steep slopes, and floodplain management, and watershed protection. So that's where all of this goes. So streams, hills, trees, floodplain is going to be here. Oh, and one thing, this is just trivia, but so if you notice, the park and open space is in the infrastructure chapter. It's not in the environmental chapter because parks are a service provided by the city, and so it's they're public properties, and so they have to be funded and developed just like any other use. And so there has to be a plan for that, and the cost of that has to be mitigated and all of that. So that's another service provided by the city, which is a lot of reason why it's in this chapter. And finally, like I said, the signage chapter is probably one of the few sections of this whole UDC that is going to be almost a complete replacement. We're building on the content that's there, but it's going to get such a facelift, it's going to look really, really, really different. Underneath, things aren't going to change too dramatically, but it's going to look really different because all the terminology is going to change. So expect some change to signage regulation. We're going to do a handbook as soon as we get this adopted. It will have like graphics in it to help explain a lot of the new stuff, but that is one area where there's going to be a lot of change. And I think that's all I have for general presentation stuff. I know that's a lot of material, but I wanted to get it all to you. We can go back and we have a lot of time for question and answers. So I don't know if you want me to just open it up.
Who has a question or comment?
Chapter 10.
Oh, buildings. There's no substantial change there. We're just going to bring it into this. So it's a formatting issue. We're not touching the building codes right now. So buildings is the building code. That's what
Chapter 10 should be building codes, but you're not doing that.
Because the design stuff is going to be in the other chapters. Yeah. But we're not messing with building codes. I don't know if I can do this. Can you guys hear me okay, Josh? Oh, that's right.
Okay, I'll shout it to him. Josh?
I was curious if House Bill 3167 was going to incorporate, has a lot of requirements for planning and review times and different things like that.
That's part of it.
It's actually, in some ways, Bernie is very well positioned to deal with some of that stuff already, but in other ways, we really have to go back and reassess sequencing of submittals, because a lot of planning professionals are concerned that there's going to actually be more denials now. And so we don't want that to happen. We don't want more denials. So I think our idea is to go back and work on some certifications and application procedures and back and forth time to allow the development community to have those windows, but in a very prescriptive way that meets all those new standards.
The only thing I'd add to that, that one's taking us a while because originally we had everything lined out, knew what we were going to do, still a formal time process. But with that, with the House bill now, we've got to go back and look at that again. And like Carissa said, we don't want to have plats go to P&Z and just get denied and denied and denied because they don't meet the criteria. Yes.
I don't know what the House bill is.
Very
Some
nice.
people may not know what the House bill is.
You may be able to say it better than I can. It has to do with timing and submittal requirements, and the P&Z has to act on a plat submittal within 30 days. So how we had handled it before was actual at formal filing within that 30 days. So they would go through months of review process. We'd get them, we'd answer all the questions and make corrections on the plat, and then they would submit a formal filing. So everything was put together and sent to P&Z. So essentially, I know P&Z is referred to as rubber stamp, but it kind of is. By the time it gets to that point, we've vetted everything. It meets state law, meets our ordinance requirements. So P&Z just essentially would approve the plat. This would require then that we put everything forward that's a full submittal, everything forward to P&Z without us really having the time to really review it and go back and forth a couple of times. So it would go to P&Z with a negative recommendation to staff. could possibly get approved upon a condition, but essentially they would be denying, and then they've got to wait another month to submit a plat. And the way we had it structured, it was a much quicker process, even though it still took months, it was quicker than having to wait to go to DZ for denial and come back and resubmit. So that, right now, that looks like where we may have to go unless we can continue with formal plat. And work with Nick on that.
Yes, ma'am.
How does the overlay situation work with base requirements? Does the overlay change the base requirements of that area?
That is a good question. Yes, it does. So the base requirements are the general standards for the town, so that's just generally. But certain areas, like you look at Main Street, and there's going to be some additional building requirements because of the historic nature of that area. So let's say I have a record store. And if I was going to locate out on 46, then I would just follow the general requirements for that. But if I'm going to be on Main Street, then I have to meet some additional requirements because of the sensitivity of the area. And so that's the purpose of the overlay districts, is to consider certain areas that have certain sensitivities because they have an economic impact or a health impact or a military or cultural historic. So
Would that be mainly then designed?
mostly, and sometimes there might be some use restrictions as well, some additional use restrictions, like there may be some particular use that would be appropriate to have in Main Street. I think, what are we talking about? Yeah, like drive-throughs, or something like that. So it's not bad use at all, but it probably doesn't belong on Main Street. So it's that kind of stuff. So it'll be mostly design and use restrictions. Yeah, height, that's a big one, and signage.
And in the overlay districts, the way the law is written now, this seems to be the only place we can regulate any additional material requirements. So as Carissa mentioned earlier about state law taking that right away, it's essentially materials. And you can't regulate materials, it's whatever's in your building codes. That's what you enforce. Well, the overlay districts will allow us to, if I understand correctly, will allow us to regulate materials more stringently in the overlay district. So height, materials, that type of thing. And the steering committee actually has asked us to look at more overlay districts. Initially, we were going to go in really honing in on overlay districts, but they would like to expand that. And we've had discussions about what areas are we going to look at, protecting certain neighborhoods, not just the historic district downtown. We've got entrance corridors now by 10s and roads, but expanding on those overlay districts so that we can regulate some materials. How much of that would be able to get done? There's a whole lot that we've been talked about that we're all interested in doing. If all of it doesn't get done right away, we're still going to continue to look at that, but it's something we definitely seems to be in.
And signage is going to be done by overlays as well. So, and some other design things. But those are the big-
Landscaping or something.
So, I'm part of the committee, and it has felt like a sprint from the beginning, right? And then we sort of like, oh, we're slowing down, but I feel like we sprinted through all this stuff that was good, meaty stuff, but maybe too fast. I mean, I think that's obvious by the emails I've sent you guys. I'm sitting there going, well, so at what point do we come back through and really make sure that this thing really aligns with the values in our master plan? Because I can't guarantee to anybody in here that I definitely see that as being the case. And I'm not picking on anybody, I'm just saying, how do we make that happen?
Well, that's going to be part of our process. So as Ben pointed out, I think that initially the thought was this is going to be almost like just creating an encyclopedia where you just compile a bunch of things and reorganize it. But we shortly got into stuff and realized there was a lot of content that needed to be reviewed and modified as well. So our initial timeline was a really, really fast one where we would have the whole thing in place like around now, in about a month. Yeah, and so what that does when you move too quickly, because I put this up earlier, and I remember I said this was really important. When you move too quickly, you can write all that stuff, but if you move too fast, then the steering committee doesn't have adequate time to get to review it, think about it, and tell us what they think. And then there's no time for legal review, which is terrible. That's like the worst of all of it, to not have legal review. And then it's a big burden for council planning and zoning to either support or deny something they know the community needs that they can't So there's a lot of reasons why the decision was made to slow down. So we are still producing, it's just we've hit the two actually the most complicated chapters from a production standpoint, which is the procedure chapter and the signage chapter right now. And so once we get where we're happy with chapters, they go to the steering committee, and then the steering committee gives us their comments, and then we make adjustments and then send it to for legal review. That doesn't mean that they don't ever get to see it again, because council gets to get their comments. So everything's iterative, and it goes through. We got the zoning chapter done first because that's the one people tend to be most concerned about. So that gives us the longest amount of time before adoption for people to comment on that. So that's already up for public consumption. And then as soon as the design chapters are at that point, they go to P and Z council, those will also be out there for public consumption. So then we can start getting these comments back and making those adjustments. And then they'll go back to the steering committee, back to council, back to P and Z. So there's a lot of back and forth before this thing ever gets finally adopted. And it's going to be several more months before we put the whole thing together and push it forward. So I don't know if that directly answers your question, but that's kind of the overall process.
I mean, I'm grateful that you guys are describing it as iterative, because it's exactly what it should be. It's got to go through all the different processes, the different eyes, the minds. I'm a big fan of crowdsourcing myself. What are we missing? What can we make better? Always important questions. I guess what I'm getting at is we really sprint through several chapters. Okay, this 1 month we're going to review this. And even as I followed up to try to get more information, say for example, obviously environmental design chapter is one of special interest to me. I'm reaching out to other cities, I'm finding more information, and some of that takes a little while to go through all the correspondence. They help answer a lot of questions. I have to wait to get on the phone with these folks. So I'm doing my due diligence now. There's no way I could have done that 1 month. It's taken me months to get all the connections in place and to get on the phone with these people.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, shoot, how do I make sure I do my role that I think I've been asked to play?
And I think the slowdown helped with that. So that way you can get that to us, and we have time now to incorporate it.
Right.
So we do still have time, and just to reiterate what Chris has said earlier, which I'm not sure that everybody understands, when we initially started this process, it was just to put all of the ordinances together. We were going to tweak the ordinances a little bit. Well, there's a whole lot more interest in that, and rightfully so. I mean, it still needed some work, but we were planning on doing that detail work later after we had all the ordinances in the UDC. Part of the push behind that was trying to make their citizens and developers could read everything together and it would make better sense, and making sure that it was all cohesive. And that's really what Chris was tasked with initially, was making sure that everything worked together. Well, then we got into the details of it, and there's a whole lot of work that has to be done. So we're still going through that. Everybody has an opportunity to look at it. It's online, steering committee, and again. It goes to planning and zoning commission and goes to council, and we have open discussions. So this is an open house, but we have these same type of discussions with planning and zoning, who want to see the zoning chapter again, because that was a lot of information to go through here. And city council too. So just because we have an open house doesn't mean you can't come to those meetings. Please watch the website too, because all that information is on there. Feel free to give us feedback. That's why it's out there.
Yeah. And I'll, just so everyone knows too, go ahead, Mr. Bowman.
I think you need to realize that this is a fluid document, and it's not in concrete, it's a document. So we're always learning something, you're always learning something, Tim's always learning something, so it's something we'll keep moving. I mean, we'll get it in place. It won't be like the healthcare plan when you read it afterwards, but we'll try to get it in place. Go forward from here, but this is just always trying to bring better ideas, new ideas to the table, and we'll go through this process now. And I'm just like you, it's like big tsunami coming there, like, okay, might be able to understand all this stuff. I'm thinking about how my staff is going to all of a sudden now have, I don't know how many pages of new documents to read, and then be able to be responsive to the community, and builders come through, engineers, realtors, whatever. So I think it's one of those things we just keeps evolving over time. And we're going from where we're at today, and hopefully we're making improvements to there, and down the road make some more improvements, et cetera. And, you get some environmental engineering, and he may have some new idea. Oh, I didn't see that now. Anyway, I think it's just, I'm with you, I understand what you're saying. I think it's just something we just keep working with as we go on down the road.
Well, they will make one comment before council says something here. In the process of the ordinance updates, there were specific items that came to our attention, and touched on, 2 years ago, but really never got into the meat of it. So now we're gonna do that, which always helps, and that's going to be incorporated very quickly into Chris's process. So he is coordinating with Chris to make sure that that gets incorporated. But he's not just looking at, well, we're also gonna incorporate the Atlas 14 calculations into our ordinances. That will happen at the next council.
And what is that, this 14?
Atlas 14 is rainfall data. It's the updated rainfall data. It hasn't been updated in probably 50 years, I believe. So apparently there's an increase in rainfall in the region. And our calculations are just based on old,
Cities.
not TCQ.
No.
NOAA, thank you. National Organization I should know this. Anyway, they study the rainfall data, and so they have updated their numbers. You know, they're 50 years old, so we're incorporating those right now in a couple of weeks in their ordinances. We're really planning on doing that right away, but we're going to do that, and then we're going to work with Troy and look at LID. We're going to see how open space can work with the LID regulations and the street corner setbacks. All of that will be looked at in much more detail. So those things are we're doing right now. The other thing is updating the historic district demolition requirements. That will happen very quickly as well. So, and she'll be hiring a consultant to look at the historic district expansion and preservation as well. All of that has come out of just trying to put all of our documents together. So when you get into it, you start thinking it apart and realize how much work still has to be done. And I promise you, when we're done with this, we'll still have more work to be done. Yeah.
And that is a good point, because so any master plan or plan for the town is a reflection of community vision, and it's a policy document that the city follows. It's a roadmap. Your ordinances are the laws that your government adopts to administer, enforce, and realize that. So ordinances are changed a lot. They're more changing. And so, and this UDC, it's not encyclopedia, it's a collection of all of those regulations. And so they do change a lot. They evolve, you amend them, you adopt new ones. That's part of, it's like I think part of government function is make this lawmaking, and that's what this is at the local level, is local level lawmaking. Okay, he's been waiting, and then I'll get to you, Cal. Okay, yes, sir.
I'm not basically over what they're trying to do is put all your regulations in one book. So what I'm looking at is we need to simplify it. It's too fragmented on the review process. So what I'm proposing is that y'all have a central contact office. When someone wants to create a development, that they send a proposal to this one office. That office then will form out or distribute the various elements in his proposal, in other words, zoning, streets, or whatever, signs, whatever, environmental code, and then you'll have qualified persons that look at each of these things, then bring it back and present it to the mayor, the city manager. And I think right now, a lot of people are like farmers. And the first time we find out about this well into the stage, then we're told, well, we can't stop it, we can't turn around. So if you can have this process where we're complimentary, we're reviewing the various elements within that proposal, bring it back to this central office again, and the central office then gives it back to the mayor or to the P&Z. And they look at it and ask questions, and when they're satisfied, it needs to go to the public hearing. Because we've kept the public out of this too long. It gets to the point where, well, they met minimum standards, so we approved it. Well, no one knew that the thing was even going on. So, once the people, once you have your public meetings on this, then they can be given an opportunity to go ahead and actually design whatever the project is. And as they do their design, they're still having to comply with the new rules that's on there. And you need to have someone that then the city engineer or his delegate needs to follow the construction and see that it's designed for what the plans say. We're seeing a lot of stuff now that isn't what the plan said. So, but they're stuck with it. They need to actually sign off on it. And then they need to follow the construction. And if they make field change orders, that needs to be reflected in the as-built set of plans that are signed by the engineer. Otherwise, right now, that I come in your office and find out where there's a storm sewer and what the elevation is of the location. No, you don't have an as-built set of plans. So that's something that the city needs to have. Right now, your design requirements are not bad. There's certain areas, particularly the drainage areas, where y'all are way off of standard engineering practices.
Now, you got proof of that?
Yep.
Okay, bring it in.
That's what I said I want to talk about.
You've been waiting forever, bring it in, bring it in.
Okay, see, but now I'm concentrating on that as well. Again, when the preliminary is gone to the various stages of the review, and gets to the PNC, that's when the public needs to be involved. Because you're going to get on controversial stuff that you see later. If you don't do this, you create a public relations problem. And it lacks all of this credibility of the elected officials and the city staff. And the citizens need to have their right to say and get involved early on. Some proposed projects may meet minimum city standards, yet are not accepted by the public. Some proposed developments are at the wrong height, at the wrong place, at the wrong time. No wait until it's too late to get the public involved. And is the city so desperate for new taxes to entertain those, even if the citizens are there? This certainly does generate trust in the will of the elected officials. Of course, I'm still trying to see, whenever y'all get to that point, from rainwater harvesting or something, there's rules that can be used in the city on rainwater harvesting.
Sir, I'm wondering, because I'm not gonna remember all this, can you do me a big favor and write all that down and give it to us? Okay, and just give it to staff because I'm not gonna be able to remember all.
Okay, and then a couple other things. One of the things we're seeing is that, well, they're not even following their own rules. The city staff is that do stuff, but it's not even watching their rules. One of the things I'm looking at is the thoroughfare plan. You have a thoroughfare plan, yet you're letting some of the developers develop. And not honor the thoroughfare plan, when you do that, you're destroying the overall plans that you have. The low impact development that y'all are proposing, it's a good thing. But typically, low impact development is not also, it's good off that down. But if they want to use low impact development, they also need to have attention. Because once you have the low impact for the first 5 minutes of a hard rain, it's inundated after that with that wrong. So you need to still have the attention to that. Let's see what I'm looking for here.
One more highlight, because I think someone in the back row wanted to make a comment.
Well, some of the stuff, I think the law should change, like on subdivisions, you need to have 2 entrances. Some of these right now have just 1 entrance.
Yeah.
And if something happens up at the front, you can't get into the subdivision.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Um,
That will do it.
Anyhow, there's a few other
Okay.
things in here,
Well, thank you.
but, maybe I'll just keep the original right.
I'm sure we can. Thank you. Okay.
But just simplify it.
That was a long list. But I've heard most of it, and I understand what you're saying. We actually are undergoing internal processes right now that I think will simplify things. UDC code is supposed to help simplify things so that everything is cohesive and all ordinances interact with each other. So I think part of this is a little complicated. accomplish a lot of what you're talking about. With regard to detention, although I can develop on that, we're getting ready to study with Troy Norman. Detention facilities, all of that. I've listed my ban, talked about detention facilities quite a bit. It's all engineering magic to me, but a lot of it is engineer to engineer. If they seal it and it meets the requirements of our ordinances, then we will be allowed to move forward. So it's looking at our ordinances again. We are going to look at those. So are there things that could probably be tightened up? I think everybody agrees with it.
Well, like for instance, I'm talking about stormwater. Like typically an engineer uses like for asphalt, like concrete, they use like a .9596. No, we use a
Get way over my head.
It's the amount of water that one of
But we are going to look at all of that. So feel comforted that we're going to look at it, and we're going to look at it in detail. So I think that, that is part of what we're going to look at. And we're also working with the county to make sure that we're all on the same page regarding that. Yes, oh, we are. We are. So I hear you.
When you, somebody is brought into the city, you need to know that whatever they were designed to meet your criteria, like.
Absolutely.
Actually, the gap is more higher than they are right now.
It's how you talk. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I've got a simple one, and it comes from what Ben and Ron talked about earlier. We always create things that lead to unintended consequences. As one of the pieces of general provision language, could we simply write something that tells the citizens of Bernie, this can be amended as needed? I know we don't have to lay out the process of how it gets amended, but let's give them comfort that we can do it, and then can we even tell them how much time it takes to get amendment work
Yeah.
done?
We're gonna, there's already a provision in your master plan that talks about updates and amendments to the master plan, and any good code will have that in there, because, some cities are too, I think, too strict on that, like San Antonio as in only get every 5 years amendment unless council calls for it. I think that's a little too stringent, but you do need spelled out in your UDC processes for amendment, and that'll be a section for sure. Good question. We do that answer.
Kind of hit on it, but I'm curious, given some specific thoughts of ETJ, current ordinances and how they work, it's kind of sporadic and
Convoluted right now, right?
that's it.
We did not
Like term.
anticipate WCIDs and other water providers out there that are coming around us.
There's just a lot of things out there and a lot to dovetail together.
Absolutely, and we're already working with the county in discussions regarding that.
Yeah, I talked to Rick, I mean-
To review better.
I think everybody knows it's a shortcoming, but hopefully this ties so it can be good.
They will, and they're actually, they're in the conversations with us on that.
And ironically, it's funny, another reason I think UDCs are much better than kind of the old-fashioned ways of keeping everything separate is the fact that historically you had a subdivision chapter that had everything that you could do in the you could do all that in ETJ. And then your zoning chapter are just city limits. And now with these design chapters, certain things we can look at and figure out, okay, are we prohibited by state law from regulating outside the city limits? If we are, then we can't. But if we're not prohibited by state law, then maybe we need some foresight. And all this stuff related to environmental stewardship, it really affects the natural resources of this community. So there's certain pieces of that, and so getting this type of structure in the beginning, we'll be able to say, these things apply to ETJ. These things apply to state limits. And then for those things that do apply in the ETJ, that inter-jurisdictional coordination, that then we have those items listed where we
A lot of
can do that.
things now, talks about the zoning code, which doesn't apply to the
Yeah.
EJ, so we're trapped. Like,
Right,
What, we don't even know really what we're doing.
right. And so the goal, at least the intent, is to get that line of demarcation much more clear. So when you come in, let's say you're doing a little property just outside of town, you'll know exactly which of these things you have to comply with and which you don't.
Yeah, I think, the key point again is the limitation of what you can and can't do in the ETJ. The legislature keeps taking things away from the city to regulate it out there. We actually have a monthly meeting now with the county
development people, and they sit down and talk about what's going on out there, so we're all on the same thing. County have issues with it, they bring it up, we have issues with it, and they've got to bring it up, so. I think that's improving the communication and processes as we go forward, and again, that was not, you know, it's almost a day-to-day thing about how things change or how people want to come to the door and have something done, new ideas come to the door. So
It's a balance, and you don't have the funds or manpower to control the ETJ, you know, to do the maintenance and all that.
So we can add more staff if you want to. Just bring
Well,
staff.
but not without the tax base that comes with it.
We can do that, I mean, there's some things John's talking about, you know, we need to have a meeting kind of every 5 steps to take care of some of the things he's talking about, so matter of whether you have the staff to do all these things, I'm sure.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. One last.
Looking at your progress timeline. Put that back up for a second. When will the public get to see, for instance, zoning is all the way through legal review?
Yeah.
When will the public get to see that chapter?
It's already available, Laura can tell you, I know we posted it when it went to council P&Z, I don't know where it is right now.
And I looked at this, but they didn't.
No, I don't think we've got it online. It was we were gonna go through P&Z one more time, but it's because there were a lot of changes on that one, so you won't even see it yet. But we will put it online, and everybody has a chance to go out and look at all of these stuff. It's online.
I guess my point was, you mentioned that you would like comment, but
Yeah.
there's no avenue for comment.
Not on the zoning.
They haven't seen it, the public hasn't seen anything.
So we posted a couple of those sections online for you to look at. Want to check?
I looked at that, and what I saw was the general briefing that was here, I guess maybe I didn't look in my area.
Did you look under the UDCs, under master plan and UDC?
Yeah.
I'll check to make sure.
I'll look again.
Well, Crystal, what type of timeline do we have in between when we think will be done before it gets to the P&Z and the council does? I don't want Bob, myself, have to go back and read
Yeah.
new traditions that we rented, so that
And that's the reason, right there is the reason why we don't just, like, I don't immediately post once I write something because it could change 10 times and then I hear the comment of, that's nothing like what we saw. And so, and especially before it goes through legal review, we don't feel comfortable putting it out there because we might be having to make some substantial changes to get in compliance. So there's a reason not allowed it out yet, but that is a good point. So once it gets to, the theory is once it gets to P&Z council, it's open at that point because it's a public meeting. So that's kind of the point where things would start getting out for public consumption. We've not a lot has gotten to them yet. Like they've just seen zoning, they haven't seen all this other stuff yet. So
Zoning was just a discussion. So
and just so everyone's clear too, this stuff isn't getting acted upon at the chapter level. What's happening is when it goes to P&Z and council, it's for like an overlay workshop. And so that's the point, from that point until the adoption date when tweaks and fine tuning can happen. So this isn't going to get adopted chapter by chapter. So it's introduced on a chapter level, but then once we do that, because they all relate to each other, you know, so all these things are related to each other. So there's a lot of going back and forth, and then it'll all come forward. Well, except for like, you know, in general, it'll all come forward and be adopted at the same time. Like everybody's talked about, there are certain pieces that are going to be acted on now, that are going to be done now because you can't wait. But then all of this stuff will get pulled together and be adopted at the same time. That's the goal.
I think it'd be fair to forecast what we think that is. I'm guessing the best case is first quarter.
Yeah, I would say
Best case.
yes. And I'm hoping for March for that, just because of city calendar things. Yeah. So, but to hit that date, you know, you work backwards, and that tells, you know, if we have that, say that's our date, then you work backwards on how many hearings have to go in for adoption, how many chapters are there, when you know, so it takes a good 4 or 5 months of just that last column, you know, before that can happen. So it's not, it doesn't matter how fast you produce this stuff, the review process is so important that you've got to slow down a little bit. So I'd say that's the going one. And then after that, we're gonna be doing like a handbook that's more like the executive summary. So a lot more visuals, charts and tables, and decision trees, and contact information, and summary stuff. So that's more, to be honest, that's what everybody wants. That's what everyone will look at, is just that. The rest of the stuff will just go for staff, but,
The design makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
You mentioned at the very beginning of your talk about the master plan, about the land use, and how it dictates the kind of. My question comes out of that, and because I've been listening to Texas Municipal League, listening to legal advice, and listening to these different things, and I'm a little confused about what I'm hearing about how state law applies to the master plan. My question, can you discuss the state law related to the master plan land use designations and how it dictates zoning of newly annexed property? And I'd like it from a consultant standpoint, and kind of your interpretation of the state law, because the term guide has been used for many years in reference to the master plan. And it seems like a vague term.
It is.
And not that it's not a legal term or whatever, I just don't quite understand with the state law and the dictation of land use.
So Texas is, Texas, I love it, there's for better or for worse. So Texas is a very loose planning state, like you go to Florida, very prescriptive. Your master plan has to have certain things in it, it has to be structured this way, you have to do it every so often, this is how you have to do it. So it's very top-down prescriptive on how a city plans for its future. Texas, I love it, we are the boss of ourselves, and we don't like that. So every city with intent has a lot more wiggle room on what that master plan is gonna have in it and how it's gonna relate. And so I think, and they correct me if I'm wrong, I would say it's intentionally fuzzy on that, and that the only downer to that is on cities go cheap and they do like master plans that are terrible and so with no guidance for development. And I think cities are being a little more sophisticated in realizing that that's a mistake. And that's why you see so much investment in master planning right now in communities in our state. But there is a very vague, it is vague, the connection between the two. And so the right way to do it is to clearly define the relationship and then set forward how that's supposed to be implemented. But that's not what is required, that's just the right way to do it. It's very vague how they're related, and it should complement each other.
It's clearly defining it by which way?
Like if I say land use category blue, this is how I'm going to implement my land use districts. And then the blue is going to be changed to these zoning categories or something like that, but to clearly define the rules about how the two are related in your master plan. But you don't even have to do that. It's very, very, very vague. But do you have anything to add?
Yes, I do.
I knew you would.
Some of you don't know me, I'm the current interim city attorney, but I am a planning and zoning attorney for the last 6 months. No, it's 40 years it's 6 months. What the statute says, Brian, is zoning shall be in conformance with the comprehensive plan. Now, you hear the term master plan, land use plan, all those. Comprehensive plan encompasses your transportation plan, land use plan, all those elements. It is true that that's only a guide. So if you have your land use plan as part of your comprehensive plan, that typically is reflected in a map. And they'll maybe color-coded or numbers to show the types of uses that the community believes going forward should be the new type of use in that particular geographical district. That does not establish the zoning, however. Remember, the zoning has to be, statute says, in conformance with the comprehensive plan. It's the land use map is part of it. There are some cases on this where the zoning adopted was so far outside of what the town's comprehensive plan had established that it's subject to challenge. Very few of those though. So Carissa's absolutely correct. Texas is one of the most lenient states with regard to how those two plans work together. The zoning map and the land use map. We have a system of public hearings before the before the zoning commission, you know, the statute. There's a zoning commission and a planning commission. We all put them together. They're separate commissions in the statute. The zoning commission still has the authority to recommend to the city council a zoning use for approval that may not fit exactly what that map in the comprehensive plan is. They still have that ability, and that's kind of the vagueness that Carissa is referencing. And then, of course, the legislative body is the city council, and they are a true legislative body when they're voting on zoning. It's not some administrative board like many other types of work. Remember back to 8th grade civics, we have a separation of powers in Texas. We have the executive, the judicial, and the legislative body. The judicial cannot tell the legislative body what to do. That's what the city council is doing, is legislating when they adopt zoning. So it carries a lot of weight. The key term, though, is conformance with the comprehensive plan. So that's the guide. That's why we use the term guide, is because that's all it really is. That's more than you wanted to hear.
That's great.
Well, the answer to Mr. Kite's question earlier about putting something where it doesn't belong, and that's why we have the land use plan, and that's why we should follow it, because it has a place for all of those types of uses, be it residential or commercial or agricultural. There are places within the land use plan identified for that. So yes, we try to follow the land use plan, and if it is so, if we determine that the land use plan is so far outside of what P&Z or council had envisioned for the area, we need to modify the land use plan. So that should happen if we don't follow through on with the land use plan.
And at the end of the day, like, your zoning is, it's what, it should be about preservation of the right to use and enjoy your property in a way that is not disruptive to the community in which you're found. So zoning is almost a protection of right of use, and your plan is a community vision for who you want to be in the future. So those two need to play nice together, and that's why the clearer you can be in your ordinance language about how things get updated in amendment, how the two documents are supposed to relate to each other, what's the purpose of each thing, what drives what, it makes that less loose. So you saw that. I love that we have that flexibility here. I would hate to have, I don't like all that talk, you know, some states are so restrictive. I think you can have better plans here because they can be more innovative and be more customized to what your community needs, but it is very, very vague.
I was going to try to keep my mouth shut, but it doesn't. Yes, I'm an environmental guy. Ron pointed that out earlier. He makes fun of me on a regular basis, and that's fine. To me, your environmental design chapter should precede all the other design chapters because the environmental factors inform and affect every bit of development design. My 2 cents.
Thank you. Then I like rack my brain over the simplest things like that, and there is a reason to the sequence, and it's just, it's like the color spectrum, you know, just getting it in the right order. It ended up, incidentally, it's funny, there's a reason it ended up like it is because of what comes before it, and because zoning comes right before, so that's the reason, and because environmental and infrastructure go hand in hand together, so we shuffle things around quite a bit, but point taken, and I love that about Bernie, and I like that there's so much time and thought given to that, and those principles are actually, they should be woven in at some level and speak to each of the other chapters as well, so that's one of the things you'll have to.
Well, and that's part of the reason we hired Carissa. She looks at the whole picture. The reason why Troy, I think, will be very helpful is he's going to look at the whole picture and how all of that will tie in with subdivision regulations. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. What is like, first of all, civil understand, where do they fall within these zoning categories? Not residential?
Right. Yeah. Well, are they public or private properties? Yeah, if it's public, it's different, so that's the thing. So we have it right now where if it's a public, something like a park or a school, that is allowed in any of the zoning categories. And parklands are allowed anywhere. So, because you want them, they're good, you're not trying to contain them, and they're appropriate in any setting. So that's how that kind of thing happens. And then if it's a special, if develop for something special, then that's what these, yeah. So it's either gonna go for one of our new categories, depending on what the uses are. We tried to create new zoning categories that can be more adaptive to emerging and creative uses. So like craft industry, technology innovation, all of this stuff is broken out more. So, and then if that doesn't work, we do have the other flexible zoning tools and, like that's what PDs, honestly, which was before, it's a master plan, depending on the scale of it. If it's a large, multifunctional, multi-use area, it's 5 or 6 different uses in one site, then that is a perfect example of something that might be good for that. So if it's a new creative use that didn't fit with the current zoning categories, then it might fit with some of the new ones. And if it still doesn't fit with any of the zoning categories, and it's something that is reflective of community vision, is totally consistent with the master plan, but there's no one zoning category that would apply, then it would go for either a PD or a PD.
So to that point, I know Paula Hayward's also brought it up multiple times, and she was impressing along me the other day that we really should have some sort of cultural zoning designation. You know what I mean? So if we have an art museum, we have an opera house, I don't know, some kind of performance area, that it's not quite a commercial business in a sense because it's operating as a not-for-profit and has its own character.
Those are particular uses that are allowed in multiple different zoning categories. So what we did was instead of, because what happens is then that property in 20 years has to be rezoned every single time because that one particular use. So when you make your categories too specific, they're so limited. So instead, it's like line items. Master use table has all these categories from the top and then a line item of all these particular uses. So uses like that are going to be allowed in lots of different zoning categories. So that way you don't have to go, because the other problem is, let's say that I have a new stagecoach museum in town. Shouldn't have to go through all this, do all these applications and rezone and reapply and get variances to do something worth the community. So it actually helps to treat it as a line item that's allowed in multiple categories. It's just one, the odds are a lot better that they won't have to do all that one step, if that makes sense.
So to answer your question, yes, we've addressed it with the new ordinance updates, and that was one of the things that I paid special attention to. Paula, not just because Paula brings it up, but it does come up quite often. And what if somebody wants a community garden in their neighborhood? Well, we have this open space, but we don't know what to call it right now. So I think we've addressed it with the new zoning categories. You'll get a chance to look at that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The comment that kind of links to two questions. On the calendar that you put up there before, I did not see another workshop following
An open house.
or open house.
We have
whatever you
another one in
call it.
February, and then again, like I said, these go to the EMT and they go to council, so you'll get another opportunity to see this. I don't recall the date, we have it on our calendar. What I probably need to do, since it's been a question by several of you, is put our calendar up.
And update it.
It's a lot of detail, maybe we take some of that out and just get moving with what
That
they're
was
looking
one of my
for.
questions, actually.
Oh, I'm
is,
sorry.
Well, no, I didn't come to the first, open house in college. From what I understood of that meeting, the attendance of this one was considerably better.
Yes, I agree.
This is really poor. I guess my question goes is, if we're concerned about how the public feels about this, how does the city really expect to get public comment? Have you really given any thought to what it takes to fill the room and to get a room bigger than this to see what?
Oh, I would
I mean, look
love
at all the
to
other
have
events
that.
in town that we fill space, and this is the future of the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can't fill the room.
You want to know how I got everybody to answer the survey questions when we did our master plan? I offered a $50 gift card to the restaurant and dinner. $50 gift card to every group, and it went wild. And we got the best turnout for a survey ever by doing something that simple. So we put it on Facebook, we put it on our website. I know the council members put it on their website too. So, other than putting flashing signs out on the highway, which we've done, we did that with the middle one, okay. I don't know what else, I think this is, and I will tell you, the master plan we had probably better input. And we got a lot of our base information in the master plan. We're following through on all of that now with the implementation of the ordinances. So I feel like we've heard everything from the community. It was really, we got some really good turnouts. The survey was fantastic. That's really good feedback there. So now this is implementing all of that. But now we're into the detail of it. And people aren't listening. So this is kind of the boring part. This isn't the fun part, the creative part. And people kind of tune out. But if you've got some suggestions, I would love to hear them.
And this is, you just said, like, this is implementation. So this is not like a new thing. This isn't us making, this is implementation of the master plan. This is just like you would do a capital improvement plan or a budget. This is one of those items for the city. It's a governance item for the city. And so the purpose of this is to create the development regulations that help the city to implement the master plan. So the engagement, that's why the engagement process is a little different. It's not as all about public meetings and all of this stuff, because it's kind of in-house staff needs marching orders now on how, so it's very law, ordinance, administration focused, which is why the process, I think, is a little different, so.
Don't you think they're gonna get participation after they receive the draft? Right now, they don't know, there's nothing to comment on.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you. They're going to get y'all answering the comments. Unless people get it out there. Because I see the same faces again and again. And I appreciate that y'all have that kind of interest in this level of detail. But it's very difficult to get. I mean, I can put the zoning ordinance out there tomorrow, which is still very convoluted, and we'll get very few comments on it.
How will you put it out there?
On our website.
On your website, why don't you put an article in the paper if it's in the
Put an article.
Get a picture of a meeting. I mean,
I just took 2 pictures.
some of us are still reading paper.
I know, I agree. And we did put the open house on in the newspaper.
When did you put it in?
We posted it a couple weeks ago.
Well,
And
that's
put it
what
on
I
our
mean.
Facebook.
It's very,
And
we
Twitter.
had it put it on my agenda, but I don't know how many people.
How did you find that out?
2 weeks ago.
How
Yeah, I know.
did you find out?
Not the paper,
Okay.
but that was 2 weeks ago. I wrote it on my agenda. I think that probably people, if they're reminded close to the date, it's a lot better than if it's just over 2 weeks ahead. I don't think that everybody marks it down.
You can sign up for push notifications on the website too, at the calendars, and it will push out that notification. It'll text you, it'll email you,
There you go.
you just gotta sign up for it.
Gotta sign up for it, but that's what I'm saying, here we are, the ones who do.
And y'all have always been active.
Yeah,
We've always been involved.
we know, but I'm saying a lot of people do, we're not gonna.
I'm always open to. Yes, sir.
I have a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
And I said this is my first time in one of these meetings, and I learned about this very informed citizens Facebook page that has 7,000 members.
Right.
So, I don't know if we're chair of everything in the room, but that's your bullshit.
Sorry,
That's how I got here.
That's how a lot of
And
people
so,
know it.
it's much fun to watch his paint dry, but that's, I mean, that's come here dry. There are multiple Facebook pages with thousands of people on them. So that's one thing. And to your point about content, I work a lot on federal regulations in the disability space. That's really my area. And notices of proposed rulemaking and specific comment periods are involved that you have to provide. So maybe to your point, when chapters are final or sections are final, there are 30-day periods, and there's a process that's published in the Federal Register. If y'all watch it, you all comment, very specific process for that. I feel like you're coming to it's an undisciplined process. It's on our website, if you have to go there, you'll see it. But a specific process that defines a start and end that you send it to, and might be one way you can consider trying to get more of that specific detail.
We do have public hearings, but I think what they're saying is by next year.
Or if you're addressing people show up at hearings, sign up to speak, their comments, when a lot of people would sit at home and write 5,000 words of comments specifically on some of those publishings, then you have to have something.
And just so everyone knows too, I mean, that is, a lot of the reason we have a steering committee is to have community representatives to go out in the community and talk to everybody, industry professionals, but also community members. Like Ben brought up, he's always engaging with the community commission, so it's not just staff. If you guys reach out to your steering committee too, because that they're your representation and they're the industry representation as well. So, that's the reason, like, we're a great steering committee, I mean, y'all are awesome. Our steering committee, and because they do both, they're industry professionals, but they also are committed to the community and the people here. So they are another resource for you through this process because they're doing the review.
So I'm going to ask this question, and I think I know the answer. But why Bernie area informed citizens to the City of Bernie website? You follow them, but not the City of Bernie website.
I didn't say I don't go alone. I said, there's one that I see 17 times
Right.
a day as I go into Facebook, and there's another one that I don't.
But how do we make ours exciting enough? So that we get 7,000 followers.
Laura,
I have a suggestion, honestly.
also the Bernie Facebooks. There's several. Several Bernie Facebooks. There's Bernie PD, Bernie Library, Bernie Government. Those are all ours. And all this stuff goes on those. You gotta follow them. You follow Bernie area, follow Bernie Government.
But do we have 7,000 followers?
We have 6.7 and the police department has close to 10.9.
Oh, PD's got you beat.
And then you've also got each of your council members that have a Facebook page. Follow your council members, your mayor.
I hear you, I absolutely hear you, but it befuddles me that there is a lot of interest out there, and they don't go to our website to find out that information, they're looking for Facebook posts. Sometimes they're factual, sometimes they're not, but they will rely on that over looking at the City of Bernie website.
Okay, I have to.
Nothing about you, Marty. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just, so with process, best practice, legal opinion, and all this information being gathered in this period of time, trying to get it right, correct? Or to get it right. Is there a mechanism in place or even a desire to, once we have it all in place, and signed off on it, we're ready to go, and is there a mechanism or a desire, just in case we didn't get it right, to amend or enhance or address or change, massage? Because this is a lot of information and a lot of standards that are being put in place that, just as human beings, we're going to miss something.
Well, you look at something long enough, everybody kind of look at. So you're right, the ordinances, are you talking about the ordinances themselves?
Well, just in general, master planning ordinances.
So all of that can be modified at any time, it just takes a public process, public hearing. There's a process to do it, but yeah, but yes, and honestly.
And is there a desire? Because I can't hear that's the way we've always done it.
No.
Or-
I'd say there's absolutely a desire. There's a couple of great examples of that. The work we're doing on the low impact development and stormwater, all the water, as a consequence of what happened down at Shoreline Park. This council is very active and wants to see us address these things very proactive. And I know I want to. And I think that we are putting in place some of those processes for the very first time. This council's been in place for 4 months. And they are perfect. And they know everything by now. That's what the expectation is of them. And they've got it figured out, by God. But they are just human beings, and we do make mistakes. And we are putting it in place. You know, this has been one of my top priorities, is get the master plan process for updating. Let's get that established to go through that. Because right now we have a 9-year master plan, not a 10-year master plan. And P&Z's got to be part of that. But I think we're educating a lot of people on all the things that we can be doing differently that I don't think we've been doing for a long time. I think we now know on P&Z that you guys can initiate ordinances changes. That was kind of an aha when we had our workshop a few weeks ago. Would you agree with that?
Subdivision regulation.
Subdivision. I don't think that we've had those kinds of conversations before. And I think on this city council, we're very active in addressing things that we felt like haven't been addressed in a long time. It's not being critical of the staff. In fact, that's the absolute wrong way to do things, is to come in and say, you guys are wrong. It's to come in and say, hey, I think there's a better way to do something, and we want to take that on.
Well, and that's the point, because when you've got people asking, how do we be heard, we didn't know, then that helps, because if something, you know, just knowing that the culture of the environment is going to be, oh yeah, you're absolutely right, if it's not correct, we want to work on it.
Oh, absolutely,
So
we're never stuck with what we have.
Right now, and I just want to make one other point, though, that the reason for the urgency to get it in place is that if we sit for 3 years trying to get it right, then nothing gets improved over what we're doing right now. And so everyone needs to remember that too, because it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be better than what we got right now. And that's the way we do it. We move quickly and responsibly, so we're as efficient as we can to get to a place with something that is good and solid that we are happy with. And then a month later, we're moving. You know, so knowing that it's, knowing that we
There's no
might miss.
finish line.
Yeah.
There's no finish line.
Right, and
That's
so,
part of the problem.
and part of that too is because this is a pretty high growth rate area. So people are building things all the time out here. So if we sit around for 3 years writing perfect stuff, your old town's already built. So there's a sense to be sure that what we're doing is good, you know, and it's solid, but we can't overthink and get off and go stay on mission too. And that was the original reason for the early fast turnaround, is because we need stuff, because people want things done better. And so let's do it better. And then 6 months after that, if we find that we missed something, then amend it. But we got to get something in place as soon as we can. So that's why we're always thinking out, okay, so when's a responsible adoption time? Because, like, we could sit here for years. Some communities spend 3 years on this stuff, you know. But this community is growing really fast, and you can't do that because you need better regulations now. And so we're trying to get as close to now as we can without really missing something.
As close to perfect as we can without imperfect.
I get really frustrated with my own website, Country Weekly, because how do I get more people there more? We go to learning, very informed citizens, and we get so much more interaction on our posts that we never can get on our website. So we try so far to get people to the website, not only where they are, because you might look at 15 times a day, because it is entertaining, but you're there also instead of expecting somebody to come to you. So, what it was worth.
Well, I do understand why, and then part of it is that some of those conversations are colorful. But it is frustrating when you get the facts out there. They look for the colorful and the exciting.
To that, for your post about this very much understood what you said. I don't know that it's a mom with the kids screaming for food would completely understand what zoning does. Why it's, you know, why they think they don't want a Hooters next
Why
to the
pay
fence.
attention.
Why pay attention? That might be part of it, is just start with zoning 101, why you should care. People don't understand until it happens to them.
Right, so if I put it out there, what's the best way to put it?
On your Facebook.
Because I could do a zoning 101. This is what this is.
But right now, we're getting a progress report, but we don't see what the progress is. Next time, we're gonna have a public discussion, we're gonna have a truck stop coming to town, and we'll fill a road.
Stop it. Y'all thought you were going to listen to the truck stop.
That's a pretty good one, Ron.
Have you held any private meetings for the health coming up, building scheme? Have you invited them, the different developers in the community that are active here, to come in, personally, invite them over, sit down with them?
Well, as far as developers, we have the steering committee, and there are some developers in the community that are on engineering and just developers. We had a developers forum at the very beginning of this process and plan to follow up with them again. Actually, we should be scheduling something for that after, pretty soon, just as a follow-up to them and get their feedback. But wanted to give them something substantial to kind of sink their teeth into and talk about. And I think with the infrastructure changes and the LID and so forth, now it's probably the time to talk.
And a lot of it too, how all of this is going to get used is going to, that's going to be part of it too. So for people who are developers in this community, that's one thing, but investors from outside, they just need to see what the rules are. That's another side for them that's really important, is not necessarily arguing about whether the number should be 1 or 1.5 or whatever numbers, and when the rest of it's stuff and what are my rules. And so once we get this adopted, we'll create that kind of playbook, which we again wrote. And that's kind of what that's going to do. So we're thinking of them definitely, and they've been kind of consulted at the beginning to see their opinion, because they built what we, for them and where we shop and where we go, they build everything, so we gotta understand their constraints as well. So we're balancing all of this.
And just, we had developer forums before Chris came along, for months before we reached out to developers and said, what are your issues with developing and heard? And went through process after process improvements with them first. So they actually had the first say in all of this, just to talk about how does it come together and how does it impact you. The number one concern that I heard was that they just wanted clear language to follow. And so we are addressing that with some of our internal processes first and foremost. And I think we're certainly better now than we were when we started that process. And then we'll even do a better job with the internal processes and the flexible processes and so forth. The rules and regulations are clear and consistent. And once they have that to follow and all the ordinances coincide, then the development community, I think, will be happy with that. That's really what they wanted to see. And that's what we heard from them. There are some specifics that they like to see changed as well, like Mr. Cambridge. But, and we'll address those when we get into that section. That answer your question? Anybody else? Thank you all so much. I appreciate your time. We'll do a better job